Whoa, there we go. Good morning, everybody. Good evening, everybody. It is July. It is not July the 14th. It is July the 21st, isn't it? Yeah, Angela?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right, so it's July the 21st. And today we are, welcome from us, me, Peter Giblett, and her, Angela Browne. We're from Invictus Legal LLP, and this is Spin Legal tonight. And we're looking at the Working for Workers Act 2021. Why didn't we do this a few years ago, Angela? Why leave it till now? But in a way, sometimes you actually have to leave laws until they've been on the books for a while, because things like case law comes and affects it, doesn't it?
Because the curiosity I want to see is this Working for Workers Act working for workers?
Interesting.
I know a lot of these things don't work for employers, and I'm seeing an awful lot less employers out there, because I think some people are just saying, why be an employer when everything is against them?
Yeah. Okay, so if you need to contact Invictus Legal LLP, you can do so on 905-688-5598. Contact Angela with Angela@weareinvictus.legal, or myself with Peter at weareinvictus.legal, and weareinvictus.legal is the website. There you go.
Yep. Let's just get better at using artificial intelligence, and then we can get artificial intelligence to do most of our work. And we just do most of the stuff that only people can do. Because in that way, you don't have to employ anybody.
Computer, shut her up. Yes, Peter. Actually, do you know on here's an interesting one. Do you know what character, who had the longest serving role on Star Trek?
Why? Who?
It was a lady who played some other things, but she also played the computer. So most of the time, she was the computer voice on Star Trek.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? She played in about 4 or 5 different types of Star Trek, and she was, pretty widely accepted, and nobody knew that she did the voice.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah. Some people are voice actors, and they do pretty good as voice actors.
Yeah. Okay, so Working for Workers Act, what's it all about? Why are we talking about it today, Angela?
Well, this is an idea. I'm just trying to put some stuff around employees, and there's different things on the Employment Standards Act. There's a lot of people who think they know employment law. They don't. And I guarantee you they don't. Employment law is a very complex piece of legislation, and Employment Standards Act is only a part of it. And Working for Workers Act is only a tiny bit of it.
Yeah.
And I think that when you start talking about Employment Standards Act, people say, but Employment Standards says this, or Employment Standards says that. Yeah, it says some things, but it doesn't say everything.
Yeah.
And there's other acts that cover things.
Yeah. And for example, resignations, if you cover normal, Employment Standards Act resignation rules, you're probably going to be worse off than if you were to convert to common law resignation rules and termination rules.
Generally, resignation, there could be a constructive dismissal, but you really have to prove why you resigned. There has to be very serious conditions as to why you are resigning. Like, for example, if you're experiencing sexual harassment, for example, in the workplace, or things like that, to prove a constructive termination and resign. Or if you are creating a lot of problems in the workplace, and then you turn around and says, I'm resigning because I don't like this. I don't like being penalized for acting like an a-hole. So I'm going to resign. Okay, you just talked yourself out of any severance. Okay, so a lot of things that people don't understand, and then there's some common law issues where people can actually get sued for wrongful resignation. Did you know that?
Wrongful resignation, yes.
Yeah, like say for instance, if you're a key employee in my shop, and you are responsible for a number of different projects, and you were doing it, then all of a sudden you decide, you're going to pull a Johnny Paycheck on me and say, take this job and shove it, work in here no more. You decide that, and you just walk out immediately. Okay, someone's going to have to take over these projects that you have done or started,
Yeah.
and you're in the middle of it. So someone's going to have to be paid to do this. And guess who's going to have to pay the price for getting someone else on track? The one who resigned. It's called wrongful resignation.
Mm.
Okay?
Well, I can come back as a contractor if you wish.
You could. Sometimes that happens because sometimes people turn around and say, I apologize for this, but I guess things got too much for me. My wife is arguing me. She's threatened to take the dog and the kids and everything else and go in somewhere. So, I mean, it happens. Okay. So,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they can go back and act as a contract.
And the same old
finish projects, and that's it exclusively. And that's it.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah. And the same old, I didn't get sex yesterday, so I'm resigning type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. These happen, hey? But just to make workers aware that there is such thing as wrongful resignation.
Yeah.
And
all right.
Yeah. And the other thing too, the Working for Workers Act, it's very important because we get so many employees. Okay. Nowadays they're complaining they have no rights. Employees have a lot more rights than I think they even got more rights than unionized workers sometimes, especially those in the wrong union. Hey. Okay. At least if you got a good union, if you got a strong union and a good collective agreement, you're okay. But if you're in a bad union and you don't have the same legal rights as workers who are not unionized.
So let's start with the right to disconnect. I once had a job that gave me one of these mobile phone devices and said you have to have it with you 24/7. Well, I've had particularly on Sunday, I've had a thing for a long period of time is like I disconnect. It's not to say that hey, at Sunday night at 9 p.m. I might be flying out to the West Coast or something, but I've always considered my right to disconnect vitally important, and there are too many employers that seem to demand that workers just put up with it and get on with it.
Yeah, there have been situations where a worker has completed their job for the day, and then the employer gets on them and says, "Oh, can you just do this for me or do that for me?" And then almost to the point of them having to return to their work, even if they're in the working from home situation, to work at home and to do some extra work. There could be a minimum 3-hour shift that a worker could claim. There's a lot of that kind of thing going on. Okay, so they have to be really careful about doing this.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you've got a worker, you have to put in a right to disconnect after a certain hour. Like say if you have your workers and they're primarily working at home, you have to put after a certain hour, you don't be bothering the workers.
Yeah.
Okay? Maybe give them a list of things to do that you expect each day.
Yeah.
Then the next day, get back in contact with them if you need to talk to them.
Yeah. And of course, the whole point about having, like you just talked about remote workers, one of the key factors about remote workers is that you could still have a 3-shift system. In fact, you could have a 4 or 5-shift system, and you don't necessarily need to have anybody, anybody working overtime.
Right. Yeah. Like call centers work, like some call center work is done at home for some people. Hey, if you could do it and you have the space to do it at home. Hey, I think what they need to start doing is looking about what people require when they're working at home, and that has to be mandated too by law. And the employer should be responsible for it, for providing it. Because if I want you to work at home, because I'm saving money and oodles of real estate for my work, I have to pay for it. So if I'm telling you, Peter, to work at home and you're living in a bachelor apartment and you're sharing it with somebody, maybe I have to give you some money to go in a co-working space or something, okay, to give you that right to have to have another space where you can get your job done.
if you're in a 2-bedroom apartment and and Joe is sharing it with John, and they're not related, they're not in a relationship, then yeah, sure, you've got to have that ability to have private space.
Yeah. And it's stricter in the legal profession because we actually have to know where they're working from. They have to actually show me where they're working from, that they have a locked door, locked cabinet, and that nobody else can get into that room except that person that we hired, and that the computer has a password and blah, blah, blah. Most people have computers with passwords and stuff, but they may not necessarily have the room to work out of. And so things like that have to be put in. So, but anyways, I mean, but the right to disconnect is the right to disconnect. You can't be bothering your workers after work and say, "Oh, one more thing." You can't be doing that.
Hey, I know plenty of people. I know plenty of people where somebody has said, "Oh, in fact, what happened to my wife one time? Boss phoned her up just as just called her out as she was just leaving. I said, "Can I need to get whatever done, right? Can you stay for 20 minutes?" Right? Of course she did. She popped back in. She stayed for those 20 minutes. And, before leaving, she said, "Am I good to go now?" And he said, yeah, thank you very much. Right?
Yeah. I had a time I had to keep a worker overtime for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because like at that time, I still didn't know anything about online banking. I had no clue. But 24 years old person likely knows more about online banking more than anybody. So I kept her behind, and I said, "I'm going to keep you for a couple hours, and I'm going to pay you for both of those hours. Just show me how to do this." And she did. Right?
Yeah, but it doesn't. That sort of thing doesn't really infringe on your right to disconnect. It's
Right.
so long as it's occasional.
They volunteered,
right?
And there was something else I just asked her to do because she happened to be very technically savvy.
Yeah.
And she offered, right?
Yeah. Okay. Next one on here is employers are prohibited from creating employment contracts with non-compete agreements. Now, that's it was on the decline for quite some time, because obviously if you own a restaurant and you got a barkeep or a waitress coming in, or waiter or waitress coming in, you can't say that they can never work as a barkeep or waitress again. That's ridiculous.
It'll be almost like a restraint of trade. You can't do that.
And also the same sort of thing, if you're a highly specialized Java programmer, and you're the only one in the region, and the person who employs you has a non-compete agreement, even that could be problematic.
Yeah.
Right?
If they get someone similar down the street, that like some of these things have been tested in court. The key is geography.
Yeah.
Right? So if this person that was a specialized programmer, they decide that they're moving to Toronto, and they're competing with you in Niagara region, it's not going to be so much of an issue. You could probably get somebody like that, and many programmers can also work remotely as well. Depending on the type of thing you're looking at. Like if they have to be here and then they're looking at you and there has to be a lot of conversation, in terms of personal contact, that's a different thing. But if someone's just going to put their head down the ground and do a think job, that's a different thing.
Yeah. And a lot of the whole point about non-compete clauses was that, especially if you had knowledge workers who knew something about the design of products and services, etc., who could walk away and effectively set it up for the competitor, set the same stuff up.
You're not allowed to do that, Peter. That's not part of non-compete. That's part of a non-disclosure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's I know that's different.
Yeah.
But even so, sometimes
like I got Colonel's secret recipe, for the 11 herbs and spices, and then I go off to another Mary Browne's chicken. I can share that. No, I can't do that. Even though.
So can you tell me? So since you've got that secret recipe, can you tell me whether it's fennel in there? No. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So essentially, they've gotten rid of the non-compete clause, with one or two exceptions, of course.
And then there's other things too where you really can't go out, and also then there's non-solicitation clauses, which are valid, right? Because you cannot, like, I'm going to quit you, Peter, and I'm going to take 3 of the employees with me, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to start competing against you. Can't do that.
Yeah.
Because if you start getting a lot of stuff and you take stuff away from me, guess what? You're paying me for all the stuff from me.
Yeah.
And surprise.
Okay, so another one that probably is long overdue: licensing for recruiters and temporary help agencies. The reason I think it's long overdue is because there are some recruiters and temporary help agencies that are truly excellent, have always done an absolute bang up job, always done exactly what they state they do, and then there are fly by night organizations that should never be licensed to do this kind of work.
Yeah, licensing is a good thing, because there's too many people who want to set themselves up as that. And, oh, I'm a recruiter, because it's like these people who wake up one morning and say, I get an idea, I'm going to become a recruiter.
Yeah.
And they set up shop, and they don't know the first thing about recruiting, and they don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah, and in fact, actually, it was weird, because I'd probably say about 20 years ago, I went through this concept of, hey, why don't I become a recruiter? Because they seemed to know, every third person I knew was a recruiter, and I knew their business inside out. But
yeah, I was in a separate temp agency at one point.
Yeah. And I thought about it. I did think about it, but decided against it. Okay, so, but again, let's be honest about it. One of the problems here has been that temporary help agencies have not always been above board.
Yeah.
And even some of the biggest corporations, some of the bigger temporary help agencies have not always been above board.
Yeah. Some of them ask you to pay them.
Yeah.
To get help. I think that's a problem. Okay. There is such thing as a retained recruiter, okay, where you pay them for executive job search for you, and they represent you to companies. Okay, but that's usually on a higher level skill.
But that's
for a general public, no.
But again, that's something that again, temporary, okay, a recruiter who's doing a lot of that kind of stuff has very specialist skills. Like, for example, they'll know the IT industry, or they'll know the a publishing industry or something like that. Highly specialized type of work, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And yes, recruitment as a business is only part and parcel of that, because a general recruiter, there's a place for it, but there's also places for specialized recruiters.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. There's specialized recruiters. Like somebody was telling me, there's professional headhunters up in Toronto that can help people who have neurodivergent, because the person who was telling me about it is neurodivergent, and he was looking into it, and I said, send me information about it in case I find anybody else with that need.
Yeah.
Hey, then I could set them up, So hopefully we'll find out what's going on with that, because there needs to be help for people who want to get into paid employment, hey, because there's a lot of people on ODSP and welfare who don't want to be on ODSP and welfare, but the economy is not giving them any other choice.
Yeah. Okay. So how does this impact? For example, the guy carrying the slow stop lollipop, diverting traffic around the road closure.
Oh.
Because those kind of people are often recruited through temporary help agencies, aren't
Yeah.
they?
Mm-hmm.
And most of them are actually employed by the temporary help agency.
Generally, this is how they're considered employed,
Yeah.
okay, as employees of the temporary agency because of the problem that happened when, say, for instance, you're going to be doing a temporary work in a factory. You go to the factory, work for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden you get injured. Who gets caught with the WSIB claim?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there were issues where that happened, and I actually had to deal with that. So they
Is
were,
that the
yeah,
reason? Is that the reason they've tightened up in this area?
some of it, some of
Yeah.
it. There's also other reasons too, where someone goes to the where the employer fires them, but then the temporary help agency takes just sweet little time in getting them another job.
Mm.
Okay, so there's a lot of things like that that are happening with that, where they
In,
really have to work so that person would have at least a good range of jobs, so that they're not constantly, so they don't have to wait too long before their next assignment.
and what you're meaning by that, of course, is that Joe's working them, and he's supposed to have a temporary contract until, let's say, the end of December, but suddenly the employer pulls the plug in the middle of middle of October, and then Joe finds himself unable to get work until the end of December anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So there needs to be some dealings with that. So there needs to be some regulations. What do we do for Joe in the meantime? Right?
Well,
So yes, he can collect unemployment, but the thing is, the temporary help agency, I think, should have some responsibility bearing on that.
yeah. What if Joe then decides he's going to another company?
He can do that too, and I think that
Yeah.
there needs to be a contract that accepts that. So, say for instance, and then there's other issues too. Like, say for instance, you work in a company and they give you a job with a company, and then you want to say, "Hey, I want to become an employee of that company," and the person you're working for wants to hire you on a
Yeah.
permanent basis.
Yeah.
There needs to be rules around that too. Kelly had an excellent program. I
Okay.
actually recruited a temp to perm from Kelly one time.
Okay. But normally these kind of temp to perm jobs are predefined in advance, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they're predefined because I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I had the right person, hey, who was working with me as a temp, and a fantastic person. And I was very disappointed when I learned how much the temp agency was paying him out of what I was paying
Oh
them.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Especially
I
since
kind of
yeah,
asked him, I said, would you like to make more of the money that I'm actually spending on the temp agency?
yeah, and especially since it's sort of like you're paying the temp agency 40, 50, 60 bucks an hour, and they're being paid 18, 19, 20 bucks an hour,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly. And the thing is, I was very impressed with him, and I thought that he should be paid more along the lines of the rest of my staff,
Yeah.
the mid level. So this was very, you know, and they have to be a little careful. Like I know that the temp agencies, they do provide a lot of help. These people are very super supportive. Kelly Services does a superior job.
Mm.
I can't say enough about them in terms of the support they provide to employers.
Yeah.
And they help you find someone. If you need someone like temporarily for a month or 2 or 3, they'll find you somebody that could fit the bill.
Yeah.
And then you
All
just
right.
pay the temp agency. You don't have to worry about deductions or anything. They deal with it.
Okay. Moving on, workplace owners must allow delivery drivers and couriers to access their washrooms. Um, this has been an interesting one. I wonder how many denials there have been in the last 4 years this has been law.
Something must have happened. I hate to make that into a law.
Well, it's quite clear because you've seen, for example, um, taxi drivers in the rank outside of a hotel, and he goes into the hotel to use the washroom, and they say no, 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 what do you call it? No staff here.
Mm-hmm.
You're not permitted in here, right?
Or they'll say staff only or something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
basically, yes, they have to. And
And you
it's
consider
almost
that,
becoming a human rights thing too,
yeah,
because
Well, you consider that the trucker has just arrived at your place. He's just done the bulk of, probably 250 kilometers since lunchtime, and now he's ready, and now he's bursting at the seam, right? He's just pulled in, he's just get it ready, and now he's got an hour's wait before your staff unload the truck. Yeah, he needs that place to go. Arguably, he even needs the right to go and use the, dinner room if you have it open. Right?
Yeah, exactly. This is the kind of thing that they have. And there's also things where they were putting in for gig workers. Okay, it's illegal. Like, say, for instance, you're one of those Uber drivers who do Uber Eats or skip the dishes, and then somebody dines and dashes on you. They just don't pay you the money that you're supposed to pay. They're not allowed to deduct that from your pay. Okay, but they would also crack down on people where they require Canadian experience only. Okay,
well,
they always had that anyways. That was always there anyways. But putting it in writing in the employment standards, I think, is important, because I think a lot of employers said, but we want Canadian experience, when it has nothing to do with anything. Like, doing an Uber job in England is no different than doing it here, and it's no different than doing it in South Africa.
And it's the same. It's the same. Okay, in law it might well be different, but let's say a computer programmer who writes code in whatever the latest greatest programming languages is the same in South Africa as they are in France, as they are in England, as they are in Quebec, as they are in Ontario.
Yep.
Right. It's a transportable job.
Where all these tech workers are getting their jobs in China and all these places.
Yeah, it's
everybody who thinks that they got guaranteed clutch in the tech industry, they're not, because they get cheaper labor elsewhere. And they're smart people. You go to China, teach them how to speak English. And you got a lot of Chinese people in the business world who could speak really good English, and they do business very well, and they're terrific at what they do.
Yeah.
So you have to be really, really careful. We're a global competitor now.
Okay, so essentially what they're saying here with foreign national protections is increased protections for foreign nationals, including strict prohibitions on recruiters or employers from charging foreign nationals recruitment fees.
Yep. People think that's normal, and it's not. You can't do that. You can't do that. Okay? So if you're a recruiter, you can't charge them fees.
And at the end of the day, for example, you're going to employ, doesn't really matter what they are, an account manager. You pay them $60,000 a year, and you will end up paying, once they've done their allotted time, you'll end up paying the recruiter a fee, typically something like 20% of their base salary at a certain point.
Yeah, exactly. Which is
the key factor is that you don't do it the day that they're hired, because obviously they could be fired in 3 months anyway. It's that probation period has to be gotten through.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we have to learn.
Yeah,
and it's also important here where I've got here a mandated 5 days of paid leave for workers experiencing domestic violence, and increased maximum fines for businesses violating the Ontario Health and Safety Act.
Okay.
So thing just to crack down on things, crack the whip type stuff. Domestic violence, which is an interesting thing for people. Again, that's a non-unionized thing.
Yeah.
Unionized people get that put into their collective agreements.
I was going to say, you've just stood into an area whereby union agreements have actually thought about exactly that kind of thing, and probably had protections for the last 30 or 40 years of that nature. And and therefore guaranteed certain people rights at certain situations. You can go and protect your grandmother who's under threat, or whatever your situation is. It may be applicable, but many non-unionized workers have never had such rights.
Yep, exactly. And then they're also looking at getting internationally trained professionals licensed faster. Hey, I don't know how faster it is. Like somebody like a lawyer from England, hey, they should be able to get licensed almost right away when they come into Canada. Hey, but it looks like it's going to take years. Hey, instead. Hey, and I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
So if they want to do that, I think that they should actually walk the talk, walk the walk, and not just talk the talk.
Yeah. And the whole point about that, of course, is, Angela, that people come to Canada. They think that they are the rights that the job that they've done, and the fact that they're being recruited under the skilled labor kind of skilled labor route into the country. They think that means that they're going to get a job pretty much the same type of labor as they did before. Okay, grant you that Canada could have a different standards for medical health care than somebody from Guadeloupe.
And unfortunately, this is where the cab industries have got to the government first. Hey,
Yeah.
they lobbied first. Hey, so they got first in line and said, okay, we need more cab drivers. Hey, so meanwhile, they're dragging all these skilled workers into the country. And then all of a sudden, they're all becoming cab drivers.
Yeah.
I've had many of them who are skilled laborers. I just don't know why. And this was when this was all happening. It was under the Conservatives. They had this program, and it was very good. It was promising, and in writing, it looked good. But unfortunately, I was seeing a lot of cab drivers, cardiac surgeon, lawyer, an inventor. And he also had some knowledge about nuclear energy and stuff like that. Right? Very much. And they come in here, they're all driving cabs.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay. Very good question. Okay,
this part number 6, working for workers 6. I think that this was trying to say, well, let's put a stop to that and let's get them into their licensee profession.
Yeah. Hiring online workers, anti-fraud protocols. You were talking about this one before we started the show.
Yeah. This is like where, like, you'll see a lot of things on Facebook and other places where, hey, start working $50 an hour immediately, guaranteed shifts of 8 hours each and guaranteed job. Hey, just apply now. No experience required. All of this stuff. So you apply and then you find out, yeah, but you got to pay us $200 before you can start your training because you have to pay for your training. Various things like that. That's a fraud. The minute they start asking you for money, it's a fraud. Okay? And there's other things that they don't lead anywhere into jobs, or they might be just fishing expeditions so they can get into your bank account. So you got to watch these things.
Yeah, and in fact, actually, that got to be one of for online workers. If you never see the company that you're working for, how can you validate that your paycheck is going to be paid to your right bank?
Exactly. And you have to be very careful and verify who it is. Okay, they have to make sure that they tell you who they are, who the employer is, the address, and then go to a third party and verify that these people exist.
Yeah.
Right? That they're not just giving you an address and a fake website. Right? So these are very important for people, right? Because there's so much of that going on right now.
All right. And a quick note, next week we shall be next week. Right, we're looking at who's exempt from parts of the Employment Standards Act and why.
Yep.
Right.
This will help people in some of their research, and like it doesn't necessarily mean like there are people who are in the professions and the regulated professions who have many exemptions in the Employment Standards Act. Okay? But there's also employment jobs. Like if I was working as counsel for, say, TTC, and they hired me on full time, then of course I would have all the employment rights as everybody else. But if I was going in as a contractor and I was advising them on certain things, then that's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we have whole law firms now doing things, or we have accounting firms doing the same thing where people are contract accountants working for the accounting firm. I actually
Yeah.
have an accounting firm that I'm actually litigating against on the same principle because this guy's
Okay.
claiming that accountants are exempt. So I'm going to have fun doing that one.
All right. Okay, so thank you for being with us. You can contact Invictus Legal on 905-688-5598. Email Angela with angela@weareinvictus.legal, or myself using peter@weareinvictus.legal, and weareinvictus.legal is our website. So thanks, everybody. And just one final thing.
Yeah, so what you heard today in Spin Legal, whether it's in this show or others in the series, it is not legal advice. And if you need legal advice, don't go to Facebook, don't go to YouTube, don't go to all these things, or even don't take Spin Legal as legal advice. If you need it, talk to a paralegal or a lawyer.
Yeah. All right. And have a great week, everybody. And I guess we will see you